A near-death experience is a profound personal experience associated with death or impending death which researchers claim share similar characteristics. When positive, such experiences may encompass a variety of sensations including detachment from the body, feelings of levitation, total serenity, security, warmth, the experience of absolute dissolution, and the presence of a light. When negative, such experiences may include sensations of anguish and distress.
It all started on Christmas Day in 2003. All day I was feeling sick. After spending the night projectile vomiting, the day after Christmas my mum sent Dad down to the only pharmacy open to get some medicine. I took it and immediately threw it back up. Funny fact, no schools are open the day after Christmas. However, even until this day, I thought I had to go to school. I must have been really ill at this point. Because the medication hadn't worked and I was in a lot of pain, my mum sent for a doctor. He suspected that I had a ruptured appendix. I remember I couldn't wear a seatbelt in the car as my parents rushed me to the hospital. I still remember the pain of going over the speed bumps. I remember I had to walk down to a room and the corridor felt so long, my mum was practically carrying me. I felt like death. I know I was in a consultation room where they checked my blood pressure and took the rest of my vital signs. I remember lying on the bed and feeling so cold. They gave me a wool blanket but it didn't do much. I think I must have blanked out after that. I remember having very vivid, color dreams of being in hospital. One dream was being in my hospital room and I kept moving my hand so my buzzer kept going off. I remember being scolded when I actually had done this. The dream though, the nurse was running in circles through 2 doors. As a 7-year-old, I found this hilarious. I woke up at some point after this and I remember hearing a member of staff talk to my mum. I was barely conscious at this point. The doctor or nurse said that there was a gentleman who really needed an operation but it would mean postponing my surgery. I remember looking out of the doorway and seeing a guy on a ventilator. I remember saying to the doctor, "That guy isn't even awake, let him go first." It didn't occur to me that I might die. I was very calm looking back at it. Later, they came to take me for my operation. The theater I was going to was in a different area of the hospital, and I needed to be transported by ambulance. I remember the paramedics having to carry me via a stretcher down the stairs because the lift was either broken or full. They carried me head first down the stairs. I was a bit scared because I hate heights and I was on the 7th or 8th floor. When I was in the ambulance, the sirens were blaring. I remember being a bit excited that I was in an ambulance. To help keep me calm, the paramedic was telling me about the different lights they have. I asked if she had a pink one because that was my favorite color. Not long after this, I blacked out. When I woke up, I remember the surgeon who was doing my operation came over to speak to my mum to explain what was going to happen. After this they put a mask over my face. The last thing I saw was a sign on a double door that said Theater 2. Whatever I experienced after this didn't happen straight away. I remember being in total darkness. The best way I can describe is it's like closing your eyes but there is no light or sound. I was just never-ending nothingness. Then I remember physically going through a tunnel that changed color from black to gray. I felt the most content I had ever been in my life. I felt weightless. As I come out of the tunnel, I was floating over a pearly gray, cloudy place. I can't really describe it properly, they weren't clouds as such, but it's the closest thing I can compare it to. Gradually, I floated down to solid ground, but it didn't look solid. Then out of nowhere, this person stepped out from behind a veil of sorts. I couldn't really see the face, but they were tall, and I would say it was a man wearing a robe. Looking back, I didn't know this person. But at the time, I looked at the person and it was like I had known them my whole life. I rushed over and hugged the legs and was hugged back. The voice sounded like they were talking underwater. I remember them showing me a smoke-like veil. Behind the veil there were hundreds of thousands of people rushing around very fast, like blurs of people. The next thing I knew, I was going through a place where people were queuing. I made eye contact with a lady in Victorian/Edwardian clothing. She didn't seem wealthy, but she was wearing nice clothing. She had her hair piled high with a hat, a blouse, and a long ruffled skirt with black buckled boots. Suddenly, I was back where I started. I was with the person from the beginning, except it was a little different. The veil was now directly in front of me. Out from the veil stepped two people. One person was an old lady who was fairly short and wearing a skirt. She had short, curly hair. The other person was a balding, old gentleman with glasses, and he was wearing braces. I remember the old gentleman needed a chair, so he was sitting in a chair. I had no idea who these people were, but again, I felt so content with them. They then asked me, "How is your mum?" I said that she was fine, and I remember the feeling that I talked with them for some time. I sat on the ground whilst this all happened. After some time, the guardian who I met when I first arrived said, "It's time. You have to go." I said, "I don't want to go. I really like it here." The guardian said, "I'm sorry, but you have to go." I knew I needed to go, so reluctantly I said, "Okay." Before I went, I remember standing on the edge of something and looking across the vast grey and white. I looked to my right and there was the guardian/person from the beginning standing a few meters to my right and doing the same. He then turned to me and said, "Bad things will happen, but I want you to know it will be all right." I remember looking at the guardian and feeling very confused. Then I was going back the same way I come in, except backwards. I was flying backwards very fast. I only remember coming round in intensive care once. I suddenly woke up, ripped out all the cables that were stuck in me, and told the doctors I didn't need it. My mum was there when this happened and said that she and the doctors were in shock because I went from being unconscious to looking awake and being in a rage. I don't remember this at all. I remember waking up to soft lighting at night with doctors and parents around my bed. Then I looked under my nightie, and saw the dressings from my operation. I said awesome, and then I went back to sleep. My mum told me later that my appendix had ruptured and that I had peritonitis. The toxins had infected my bowels and bladder. The infection was close to reaching and infecting my heart. She said that my heart had stopped twice on the operating table. The doctor told her if my heart had stopped again, they wouldn't have attempted to resuscitate me and I wouldn't be here now. I have been reluctant to share this with people because I'm not overly religious, and I wouldn't want to give false hope because that is cruel. I have always thought about that final message about bad things will happen. The year after this, my mum and dad split up and my mum conceived a child with a man. In 2007 my father passed away suddenly from an abdominal aortic aneurysm. Also around this time I was sexually assaulted by a family friend. Then the next year after, my mum had another child. My mum had severe depression and both of my siblings were taken into care. It was a very rough time in my life, which I'm glad to say is turning around and things are pretty good. But I have always wondered and I will wonder until the day I die,